What is next in this plan of ruling the world with cosplay romance novels? Is that a thing? Can we make that a thing? I'd be up for that. G'day everyone and welcome back to another Catch Up with Kirilee. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kirilee and on this channel we talk about all things cosplay, costuming and sewing related. And today I want to talk to you about my new project. That's right, I wrote a cosplay romance novel. So before we crack on in relation to the cosplay romance novel, let's just back up a little bit. Midway through last year, I made this video up here all about writing a romance book, and it was a historical romance set in Western Australia in 1903. That book is still ticking along. It's gone to alpha readers, it's gone through a whole lot of different edits, and it has even gone through a developmental edit with an actual editor, and I've made those changes and it's about to go on submission to be traditionally published. Because I haven't started querying it yet, I still have all of that footage elsewhere, and that will be a different video for a different day. But today I wanted to talk about the cosplay romance book because I am pretty sure I'm going to go through a different path in terms of this book, and it's not necessarily going to be traditionally published. But put a pin in that for a moment. One thing that I found when writing my historical romance was that I was really enjoying the process. And so I quickly discovered that I wanted to write a second book. But because of the nature that I'm wanting to try and get my historical romance traditionally published, I can't really write book 2 yet. Because that one is a 4-book series that I've got in my head, but it all depends on whether or not the publisher wants to commit to that many books. So I'm starting with book 1 for that one, and I've got the other ones up here, but I don't want to start working on those yet. You know what I'm saying? Mark Twain famously said once, "Write what you know," and that is what I decided to do. It worked for Jane Austen, why can't it work for me? And as someone who has been cosplaying for over a decade now and competed in lots of cosplay competitions and traveled the world because of this incredible hobby, and also someone who reads a lot of romance fiction, and I would say I know a bit about romance because Terry and I have been together for almost 16 years and been married for almost 10 years of that. And we're still going strong, woohoo! I can hear him almost chuckling in the background. So over the last 2 months, I have been working on this project. I planned, I wrote, I then edit, and then I sent it off to alpha and beta readers, and then I did another round of editing, and I'm still waiting for some responses to come back to me. So the novel itself is there, it just needs some shaping. It's currently sitting at about 56,000 words, which is about a 200 to 230 page book, which frankly is a pretty average size book for a contemporary romance. Though I would like it to get a little bit closer to 60,000 words just in my heart. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. So at this point you might be thinking, Kirilee, how on earth did you manage to plan, write, edit, send it off to, readers, and then do another round of editing within 2 months? Well, let me tell you something. I have a slightly addictive personality. Lucky for me, it's never been anything nefarious, but I will say that I certainly take things to extremes. I mean, cosplay. But also, I am the type of person who cannot start watching a TV series without binging the entire series. Just like if I start reading a book, I can't stop until I've finished reading that book. And do we even need to discuss Diet Coke? I think that my addiction to Diet Coke is so clear because honestly, if you cut me at this point, I will not bleed blood, I will bleed Diet Coke. Okay, now that we've discussed that, let's talk about what this book is about. I'm gonna try and keep this pretty high level because I don't want to give too much away just yet. In the spirit of Mark Twain's Write What You Know, I will let you know that this story is set in Perth, Western Australia. I know, crazy, right? And it focuses around cosplay competitions. The first character is a newbie, has never cosplayed before, but she's got skills. And the second character is an expert, or at least has lots of experience in cosplay as they've been doing it for over 10 years. The main tropes within this novel is rivals to lovers and also fake dating. There's a little bit of a triangle as well, and not to mention that there is a little bit of a one bed trope at one point. Saying this, both of the characters are in their late 20s, and this is definitely not young adult fiction. You picking up what I'm putting down? Yes, there is some spice. It's not all over the place. I love a good slow burn. This is definitely a slow burn. But let's just say, I wouldn't want anyone who is not an adult reading this, please, for my own sanity. I know that this may come as a bit of a shock because I try to keep this channel family friendly, but look, it is what it is. Another little thing that I want to say about this book is that there are little references that only cosplayers will get. And that was part of the reason why I wanted to write this book, because I had read like blurbs of other people writing some cosplay romances, and like some of them have been written by cosplayers. That there aren't a whole lot out there, may I just say, but like there were one or two of them that I read that seemed to be the ones that were like known and were selling on Amazon, and honestly they weren't cosplayers. It wasn't written by cosplayers. It was just people, authors who, you know, were like, oh, that's a cool idea, I'm gonna write about that, which is great, but like, do they know the nuances? Do they know what it feels like to like make your own cosplay and then be standing on that stage ready to go out and show off a cosplay to like-minded individuals? Do they know what it's like to feel the nerves before going into prejudging? I'm gonna say probably not. So yes, there are little Easter eggs, if you will, for us cosplayers in there. So why did I write it? Well, obviously because it was clearly in my mind somewhere that needed to be put onto paper. But it all started with the Romance Writers Australia. They actually held a competition late last year that was called Short Bites, and this was the sweet category that I entered, which was a sweet little romance of 3,000 words. It was just a short story that I wrote. The theme was honey, so my mind naturally went to Winnie the Pooh. So I wrote a short story about a person who was entering their first cosplay competition with their own design of Winnie the Pooh, and then she meets a photographer. It was light, it was fluffy, it was cute, and so when I sent it to my friends to have a read over, they read it and they all were like, great, when are we seeing the full-length version of this? And I was like, oh okay, actually that could work. And so I changed a whole lot, but that was where the initial inspiration was from. So in November, I found this notebook and I saw it and I was like, yep, this is the notebook that I'm going to do all of my planning and collate all of my feedback in for this novel. So I started off with my two main characters, creating a bit of a brainstorm with all of their kind of backstory and their wants and their needs, and you know, a bit about their characterization and things that were important to them, just basically snapshots, so that as I kind of planned out the plot of this book, I knew exactly who these two people were. Once I figured that out, I was able to add in all the minor characters that play a part in these two characters' lives. And then I plotted out the entire book. This is what it looks like when I'm first plotting it out. I have my kind of 6 kind of main points over a 3-act structure, and this is kind of the build up, and this helps me kind of figure out what needs to happen when at which part of the story. These are the key points. Then I start going through and outlining each of the chapters as a bullet point, so that as I write all of the bits and pieces, I can tick off as I write them. I don't know, this just works for my head, and I did it for my first book, and yeah, it works for me. I am an absolute plotter. I am not a pantser, if you know what that means. I better explain that actually. So a plotter is someone who plots out the entire book and their characterization before they start writing. I find that is definitely me because I am a planner. Where a pantser is writing by the seat of their pants. They sit down in front of a laptop or a computer or a journal and they start writing, and they just let the story take them wherever they go. That sounds far too chaotic for my brain, but power to whoever does that. And so after I plotted it all out, I started writing, and my addictive personality just took full hold of it, and I got it all written in about 2 weeks. After I finished writing it, I then did an edit, and the edit was done within a couple of days, maybe a week or so, I think. Anyway, I read it from start to finish. I should have probably waited a week or two between writing it and editing it. Like, that is what I was meant to do, but really I was just so excited by this story that I just wanted to start editing it immediately. With that edit done, then I sent it out to my 3 alpha readers, and 1 alpha reader got it back to me super quickly. Like within 24 hours. I was like, okay, so I'm guessing you liked it. Awesome. So using their feedback, I made some changes, and then I did another round of editing myself. And then I sent it out to 2 beta readers. The difference between alpha and beta readers is simply alpha readers are people that know you, who are in your life. You know, they may very well be honest with you, but they will also potentially not want to hurt your feelings. Where beta readers, they don't know you. And beta readers will absolutely tell you their completely unbiased opinion of your story. Sounds terrifying, doesn't it? So currently my story is still sitting with 2 alpha readers and the 2 beta readers, and hopefully I will get the story back within the next couple of weeks, which I'm very excited about. Now, one thing that I truly love about the alpha and beta reading stages is that when you get that feedback, it's usually, not always, usually a lot of fun to go through that. I guess cosplay has given me some thick skin because I love reading what people find in that story. I know for a fact there are certain things that I have written that did not come across the way that I intended it. And it's very good for that to be pointed out at this stage rather than after it has been published, because that would be embarrassing. And what I also love is when your alpha or beta readers, or both of them should I say, point out the same things. That's when you know, no matter how much it's close to your heart, you probably have to do something about it. There's one thing in particular that I am hoping upon all hopes that they aren't going to say, we hate this section, we hate this character, because like, I have made that character like that for a reason, and it's book 2. But if they come back and they pretty much all say, I'm not sure about this, you might want to change that up, may have to look into it. Anyway, moving on. What is next in this plan of ruling the world with cosplay romance novels? Is that a thing? Can we make that a thing? I'd be up for that. So I am 98% sure that I am going to self-publish this. I am still holding the 2% out there for traditional publishing, but I'm really unsure because I'm trying to think how a traditional publisher would want to have a romance book about cosplay, especially when I'm writing it as a bit of a love letter to cosplaying. But you know what? We'll leave that 2% door open, just ever so slightly, just for now. Never rule anything out. So once I get the feedback from the beta and the alpha readers, I then need to do another round of editing, and then I want to get a professional editor. And preferably one who understands cosplay and is also in Australia. I know I'm really pushing it here. And this is the point that I say, hear me out. There are a few points to this. The first one is that Australian cosplay competitions are actually run a little bit differently to when they're run overseas that I've had the experience in, whether it be in Japan, in France, in the US. Every country runs it slightly differently, and Australians, it's an interesting one. And honestly, it's not crazy different, so that's not the main reason. The main reason is because of the Australian language and spelling. So maybe with that in mind, I might be open to an editor who is based in the UK, but I don't think that I would be okay doing this with an American editor, because I'm looking at more copyright and line editing at this point. And it's funny because I never thought of this before last year, but in 2024 I started reading a lot more Australian literature, and what I found was that it was quite refreshing actually, because there were certain nuances that were definitely Australian. It was the way that we spoke, it was where we put our inflections, it was also things like spelling and what we call things. It's not much, but it's there. So for example, Australians use S's over Z's in words like organise or apologise. It is a S, not a Z or a Z. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Another example is in Australia, it's ARSE, not ASS for the same word. And then there are further nuances, like this object right here, right? You use it to tie back your hair. Some places call it a hair elastic or a hair tie. In Australia, depending on which state you're from, it has a different name as well. So for example, in some of the eastern states, they will call this a hair band or an elastic. In Western Australia, at least when I was growing up, we called this a lackey. Which is funny because in America, I believe that a lackey means someone who does your bidding. Do my bidding. So yes, nuances of words. And this also was brought to the forefront of my mind when I was having discussions with my editor on the historical romance novel. Now, because that was historical, there was less kind of mixing up of language, but there were still little things that were interesting. And she even said to me, when you do a line or copy edit, although she was happy to do that for me, she said it might be better for you to get an Australian to do this. I respect that. So after the edit has gone through and we've made the changes that we need to make, the next thing will be things like organizing artwork for the front cover, to do the formatting as well of the book, and even maybe do some character art. Because I can, if it's indie publishing, I can do that, and that is so exciting. And after that, it is time for ARC readers, and ARC readers stand for Advanced Reader Copy, I believe. So that is when the book is sent out to people to read, to review, to put it up on like Goodreads and Amazon and all of that good stuff and give a review. Hopefully it's positive, hopefully before the book comes out, so it entices people to buy. It may also involve some marketing or, you know, making a post or something like that. I'm not sure. This is the first time I'm doing this. Watch this space. But when I get to that point of needing ARC readers, I will absolutely be letting everyone know. So that if that is something that you'd be interested in, once again, watch out for all the announcements, because I'll probably be putting it absolutely everywhere that is associated with my name, that I'm looking for ARC readers, so that people can apply and then I can sift through and see who would, you know, who would be the best type of ARC reader. I don't know, I haven't figured that part out yet. After all the books have been sent out, and there is probably about a month there, then it will be published, probably just on Amazon to begin with, because that looks like the easiest system to use. And then the book will be live for paperback purchase and also ebook. And then I start all again on book 2. Now, I will say that I am not in this to make a ton of money. Honestly, I would just be happy to earn enough money to be able to pay for the editor and also the artwork. That would be my goal. Oh, and also buying the formatting program, because I want to do my own formatting, but the programs that I want to use, they're a couple of $100. I have to also buy ISBNs, so that's also something that I need to keep in my budget. And I can tell you right now that the biggest cost is going to be the editor. I am very much aware of that. At the end of the day, I just wanted to write a story that I could see myself in. Not necessarily as the main characters, but like the world itself was like similar to the world that I exist in, that I love, you know, that it has to do with the hobby that I have absolutely grown to be so passionate about. Because honestly, after reading so much romance, which I thoroughly enjoyed, I swear if I have to read another millionaire or mafia or, you know, college or hockey or especially ice hockey romance, I think I'm gonna lose my mind. I want geeks. I want cosplay. I want my people to be represented in a romance book, damn it. Now, saying all that, I am still cosplaying. I am still loving cosplay and all of that. It's just that over the last 2 months, this has been taking the big chunk of my mental brain, because it was just a pivot. It honestly was just a pivot. I just needed to take a little break away from my sewing machine. I was getting frustrated at her and she was getting frustrated at me. So I took a little bit of a break, and I will be back in 2025 with more cosplay, but also potentially cosplay novels. And I sincerely hope that you will join me on this little adventure that is adjacent to cosplay for the next couple of months as well. As Kamui Cosplay says, buy my books. I don't know what that was. Anyway guys, thank you so much for sticking around and watching this video and listening to my crazy shenanigans. I hope that 2025 is going to be a good year for you. I feel like it's going to be a good year for us. For us all, alright? I feel it. I feel it in my chest. Let's go. Let's have fun. I'll see you all in the next video. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. See you next time. Bye!